Well, welcome back, everyone. We're going to switch gears here now to address where the future often takes shape, and that's our hardworking and dedicated workforce. One of the reasons that I'm proud of our DHS Leader Development Program and framework is that we invest in our workforce as much as we do our executives. And that should be no surprise. In an operational department like DHS, while leadership decisions may be discussed in the offices and the conference rooms, the real-time, minute-by-minute decisions that lead the department forward are made on the front lines. Our workforce makes decisions every single day that impacts our nation and our department. You, our executive cadre, may be stewarding from the top, but our team members are leading from the front. With that said, if we respect the power that our frontline employees have as leaders, it should stand to reason that we should respect the insight and information that they have to share regarding our organizational success. We talk a lot about transparency, shared leadership, feedback, but the truth is, oftentimes, when we get our 360s and we make it through the debrief and we get a little bit of feedback, we just take them back and put them in our drawer and go back to our busy days. But I'm reminded of something I once heard. If the boss thinks they are not accountable to their employees, then there are many things that they might be, but a leader is not one of them. Before leaders can create a future that works, we have to confront what is needed to create a present that is succeeding. In 2017, DHS, my office, we asked organizations to volunteer for a challenging pilot opportunity to take transparency off the wall and into the spotlight. We deployed a leadership survey that invited all employees in participating organizations to rate their first, second, and third line supervisors on leadership behaviors that are most closely linked to employee engagement. The results did not get shoved into a desk drawer. In addition to individualized coaching, each leader's results were also provided to their supervisor and to the organization's overall senior leadership. Now, we'd all be less than human if we didn't feel a little bit of trepidation at that thought. There's always the, but it's not me, it's really someone else, I'm not sure how this happened whenever we get our feedback. Leadership, though, it's really not about power, it's about the responsibility. No supervisor in this pilot could choose to opt out. So as you can imagine, it took courage to implement this kind of assessment, and in so doing, sending a very, very critical message about leadership responsibility to know how you are impacting your employees. The high visibility of this assessment meant that employees would have an expectation that they would see action and change. TSA decided to try this initiative at one of their largest airport operations, LAX, and its hubs. I can tell you that a year later, when the full evaluation was complete, LAX far exceeded even our hopes for a success story. Keep in mind, success story is not about perfect scores. In fact, it wasn't about the scores at all. It's about the culture of trust up and down. And when we went looking for the architects of this culture, we found the leadership team you're going to hear from today. Keith Jeffries, the Federal Security Director, and Martin Elam, the Deputy Federal Security Director, are a dynamic team whose success in building a culture of transparency and trust were evident in the high levels of participation in this pilot and the positive ratings and feedback. Have you ever heard employees ask for more surveys? I certainly haven't. Until TSA LAX started shifting the lens on how feedback is a part of, rather than apart from, an effective leadership culture. Let's take a look, though, at what the LAX employees had to say for themselves, and then Martin and Keith will talk to us about their philosophy, their style, their tangible outcomes they've experienced from fostering an environment that actually supports the workforce.
Do you need anything from me?
No.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you very much.
Have a good day. Appreciate it. Today I'm pleased to talk to you about our most recent leadership survey. The survey was provided by the Office of Personnel Management. It surveyed both screening operations, regulatory compliance, and mission support.
As you all know, for a long time we've been known as the largest TSA workforce in the nation. We were challenged by our leadership to be known as something more than that, and we are now becoming to be known as the best TSA workforce in the nation. Thanks again, Walt. Appreciate it. The results of the 2018 leadership survey seem to indicate that we're well on our way. Employees were asked to rate their leadership on 5 different categories. Those include support, structure, empowerment, growth, and credibility. Over 2,724 of our employees completed this survey, representing over 77% of the workforce. Because of this large volume of participation, we know that these results are pretty accurate. We actually had 50 supervisors and managers throughout the Los Angeles area of responsibility that received nearly perfect scores of 4.9 or 5.0. We're a team of leaders that supports our workforce through an effective structure and empowerment, creating a culture of growth and credibility. And let's hear what our workforce has to say about our leaders.
Support. How does leadership support each and every individual team member?
Well, the goals and objectives, as far as my supervisor that I rated on the survey, he always comes in and he talks to you as if you're his best friend.
To be a great leader, you need motivation, encouragement, integrity.
Whenever I've had an issue, whether it be HR, payroll, getting credit for something, or even just acknowledgement for AIM entries, they've always been there the next day, if not the same day.
If you're dependable as a supervisor, then people are going to want to work for you.
Structure. Do we understand that the structure, both at the first, second, and third level supervisor, do the team members understand who their first, second, and third level supervisors are?
I've been fortunate enough to have not just one great covenant leader, I had several covenant leaders or just other supervisors that it's not so much what the message is, it's how the message is delivered.
You're starting with maybe telling you what you could be doing better, but you're also telling what you could do right and going back to that original topic. But it's done in a way to where I think we benefit from it.
We have officers that go above and beyond, where someone lost their wallet and they see it there and they remember, oh, I remember who this passenger was. I saw them, they were gonna go to gate 4. So they run, go to gate 4, the supervisor recognizes that and goes right up to him and says, hey, that was a little extra that you did and that was wonderful, that was great.
Empowerment. Are team members empowered to make decisions, and do you understand what those decisions are that you're allowed to make?
My supervisor, he always tells us what we need to do, and he lets us figure it out our own way. Not necessarily in a bad way, but we don't feel pressure from him at all, because he puts the trust in me.
I know myself, if there's an issue where, yeah, I've heard the briefing, I've looked in SOP, but I'm just not quite sure if I understand it correctly. I can go to my supervisor and say, I understand this is what it states, but is this actually meaning, and get clarification.
The rules are great, but understanding the background and why they were put in place helps me better to implement them.
He comes in and he asks the leads what they need.
Growth. What are some of the growth opportunities that we have here in TSA? And are you aware of those? Has your leadership made you aware of those?
He never says anything negative, but he does let me know what I did wrong and how I can correct it in the future, and which actually, in a way, helps me out.
If it's an honest mistake, it's an honest mistake. He does understand that. He won't come down too hard on anybody, but the thing is that if it's happening multiple times, even if it's an honest mistake, it has to be corrected.
Everyone that's in leadership here encourages promotions. We talk about it almost every meeting, where there's openings, what to do to get them. We have him and a few other supervisors that'll even help you write resumes if you're truly interested in applying.
Credibility. Are your leaders technically and tactically proficient at what they do at all 3 levels? In addition to that, can they be trusted?
I think if the team is informed and kept up to date on changes going forward, we become more of a successful team.
It's a good feeling when a supervisor is very optimistic as opposed to him not wanting to be here or whatever the case is, but it makes a difference because it makes you feel good and it makes you want to be here at work.
You know, I hate to say it because it's cliche, but attitudes are contagious, so is yours worth catching?
As a result, 367 of our leaders received reports highlighting their strengths and their skill sets. It also gave them a report on how they can improve upon that same skill set. For Team LAX, all 7 categories matched or exceeded the national average. I encourage all of you to meet with your supervisors and discuss those leadership results. After all, they need your input to be the best that they possibly can to lead you throughout our organization. Thank you for what you do every day, and I'll see you soon. LA acting classes are paying off a little bit, I guess. First of all, I wanted to say what a privilege it is for me to be here. It's an honor and great work behind the scenes for all these folks that have worked hard to set this up. I want to shout out, simply because I have a mic in my hand and I'm allowed to do that, a couple of thanks. I definitely wanted to thank all of you for your service to this great country. For all those folks out there at that southwest border, too, we've had the pleasure of sending some folks out there ourselves from TSA, and I meet and interview them when they get back to find out what they've learned, how things are going, does it match what the media says. And I will tell you something, your leadership out there for these folks that are leading those teams is exceptional, and we're grateful for that, so thank you for that. Please pass that along. And also one other bit of gratitude I have is for my deputy. Mr. Elam, I just wanted to say, you know, you're a rock star. I'm privileged to have one of the most professional and solid leaders that I've ever worked with. I appreciate your professionalism and your friendship, so thank you very much. A round of applause for all of you all for what you do. We'll keep it brief. I do also want to just an early shout out to all the veterans. Happy Veterans Day, and of course, happy Marine Corps birthday for my brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps. So we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk the strategic piece. Martin's going to cover the tactical piece. And as my executive assistant administrator for security ops knows that I can tell a story better than anyone, so I'm going to tell a story. It's a true story. So I get the call that I've been selected to be the Federal Security Director at Los Angeles. As may have been mentioned in the video, about 3,600 folks. It's an honor and a privilege to lead them. I reached out to my boss, who's also, or former boss, who's in the audience. I say former not because he got fired, but because we've done a realignment. Jerry Agnew, I appreciate your leadership. I asked him, what do you need from me? He said, Keith, it's real simple. Lead your team and improve security. Keep me informed. And I need you to do me a favor. Everybody in all of TSA knows that y'all are big. Please tell everybody to stop telling everybody that they're big. We already know that. And that was it. And I thought, well, I can follow that. And that helped me draft up how I was going to communicate my philosophy or my expectations with the workforce. Because, you know, it was pretty exciting. And just like Cheryl earlier, you probably picked up on my accent. I'm from Canada, too. Kidding. From Florida. Grits is a food group where I come from, and yes, people from Florida do talk like this. But it helped me set up my mindset. What am I going to talk about? How am I going to deliver my message? What's important to the team? And of course, it was three basic pillars for me: accountability, clear and timely communication, and effective and efficient processes and procedures. It also supported what my boss said. Accountability, though, is not about me holding you accountable. That comes kind of with the territory, but it's really what I ask them to do is to hold your leaders accountable. I expect you to start with me and hold me accountable to get you what you need to be successful. Clear and timely communication, of course. Bad news doesn't get better with time. Run it up the chain. We'll get it figured out. It's okay. Don't panic. We'll all get there. And effective and efficient processes and procedures. What are we doing that we shouldn't be? What should we be doing that we're not? Let's figure out a way to build that. I'm going to sidestep for a second because, you know, we like to measure everything in the federal government. TSA is no exception. We have to measure everything. I get there, I'm there about a week. I publish my philosophy, but before I do that, I have a conference call, kind of set the tone with Team LA. Great conference call, a little meet and greet. I asked one question. I encourage you to ask your teams that question. I said, hey, just out of curiosity, and it wasn't meant to challenge them, I was just curious. I said, what are y'all great at? And it was a room packed full of leaders, and they all looked, and I could tell they were uncomfortable. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to challenge you, I just want to know. And, you know, what do you think outside of Team Los Angeles, what are you great at? And somebody says, well, we're great at whatever we put our mind to. I said, okay, I was just curious. I said, I can tell you what I know about you folks, you know, that what you're known for being big. But that doesn't necessarily equate to being great. So I said, we're going to talk about that later on. And then, of course, Martin, the phenomenal deputy that he is, he sends me a list, an email right away about, I don't know, at least 90 accomplishments and all the great things they had done that previous year. And they were impressive. And I read every single one. I said, man, this is awesome. I said, can you do me a favor? Can you send me your strategic plan? About an hour later, he comes back and says, yeah, we don't have one of those. But, you know, we're good at what we do. I believed it. There was no doubt. Great leadership that they do. All true. The side story was this. I'm there about a week before I start talking strategy with them. And I was walking around, would go in on a Saturday because the staff is phenomenal. I will say this. If I haven't, I apologize for not mentioning it. The 17 years I've been with TSA, by far, Team Los Angeles is the strongest leadership team. And I've worked at a few. I can't seem to hold a job. I've worked at a few locations, but it's the strongest leadership team I've been associated with, and that team out there is phenomenal. I'm the least important person in that process, and I tell them that every single day. So I get there. I'm there about a week. The staff is hovering around me, trying to please me, super kind, and I'm just not that guy. I'd like to kind of blend in, do my own thing. I like to talk to people, with them. I like to get to know them. So I come in, I snuck in jeans and a polo shirt. That's right, I wore jeans. They just one day. Wore jeans in there and cruised around, but you got to, LAX is so large and confusing, you got to walk around to find out where all the entry points are, where all your employees work at. What a concept. So I was walking around Saturday. It was hot, a little bit out there. Believe it or not, it does get hot in Los Angeles. And I hit one particular work area, and one of my favorite questions, always has been, remains to this day, that I love to ask, what do you need from me? And this officer, the supervisor, was standing there, and I said, hey, what do you need from me? He's briefing me on his area, finishes up. What do you need from me? He said, well, he looks around, feels obligated. He's got to tell me something. Looks around. Well, you know what, sir? We could use a little more water over here. There were some empty water jugs. And I said, well, where's the spigot? I'll go fill it up. He goes, no, we don't drink the water out of the spigot out here. We have water delivered. It's ordered. I said, okay. I finished up the day. It was a successful day. I shoot Martin. We had another deputy at the time as well. Shoot him an email. Say, hey, great job. Everything's looking good. The only thing that popped up was water. And I'm just telling them it was phenomenal. Monday morning, I come into work. And this is important. I get in super early. It was in about 5:30. There was a young lady standing in the main hall where my office is at. I had no idea who she was. She had all these binders piled up. She introduced herself. She said, sir, have you got a few minutes? I said, sure. How are you? Come on in. She said, I understand you had a question about water. So I'm playing it off at this point. I'm like, well, I didn't, but I said, sure, what have you got? Slides, graphs, detailed information, what work area consumes the most water, how much money we're spending on water, how often deliveries are made, what the peak season is for water, and all that. And I asked because, you know, she's very proud to show me this work. I'm serious on this. She was very proud to show me this. And so instead of disappointing her, I said, hey, how long did it take to do all that? Well, I had one person full-time works on this water report. I said, anybody ever ask you for it? Not yet, sir, but we're ready. I said, thank you very much. This was awesome. Now, the reason that story is so important is then I took the leadership team on a journey of strategic planning. Now, of course, all of you should know that's just a great process, isn't it? Always fun making sausage. I do like to make it fun, though, because it doesn't have to be complex. I think sometimes we make it complex. It doesn't have to be. Went through this journey, lasted about 6 months or so, 4 hours a week. No cell phones allowed. They looked at me like a calf staring at a new gate. You got to be kidding me. This guy's lost his mind. And I told them this. I had two things that I wanted to accomplish with the strategy. That we'll have a plan, and that all of you will know more about strategic planning than you knew before we got started. And that's it. And we're going to accomplish both of those. I don't care what's in it. I don't care who you invite to the table. You can pick any goals, but here's what I want you to think and keep in mind. What do you want to be great at? Because I've had about enough of this that we can't be great at something, because we are a great organization just as all of you are. And we went through that process. They came up with 3 basic goals. Ironically, it's the acronym Leadership, Accountability, and Excellence. The leadership piece means we want to have a unified vision, direction, culture, purpose amongst all of our workforce. Accountability. We want to improve security, continue to strengthen that. And excellence. Optimize efficiency in our organization and make TSA the place to work, especially Team LAX. They set objectives with it. They started looking at it and thinking, oh man, this is fantastic. And we started communicating that, and that's my role. The engagement piece, improving security and communicating the message. So I communicated it, I lived it, I walked it, still to this day. And here's the good news. Just as I told our leadership team, I think it was Monday, it's really the basics. There's no magic formula. There's no magic bean. It's the basics. Do they understand your mission, your vision, your core values? Do they understand the oath and what it means, the history of the oath? Do they understand the administrator's intent? Do they know the strategic goals? Do they know my philosophy? And we challenge them. This goes back to 2016. And not only do they know it, and it's not a show, I challenge them each and every day, they're proud to know it. So something cool happened just before I got up here. And it's true. One of the things that I should have mentioned all of you to thank you as well. Regardless of what happens the rest of this day, the send-off that you gave Mr. McElhaney as a group, that's just world class. Now, I don't know what got you out of your seats other than he's a phenomenal leader, dedicated to public service just like you are. But what if all of DHS was like that? What's stopping us? Nothing. Those folks out there in TSA on the front line, I tell them all the time, our mission is to protect the nation's transportation systems to ensure freedom of movement for people and commerce. That's awesome. The next bag check, pat down, or x-ray image could be their last. And if that IED detonates in that location, they've successfully accomplished their mission. They do that for between $15 and $20 an hour. They may not look the part of some of your employees. Some of them may. By the way, attrition in TSA hovers, I don't know, for us it's around 18%. But the rest of you folks sitting out there, 50% of the attrition we lose in LAX goes to your departments. That's not a loss to me. That's a gain. Make it count. They're just as dedicated. They love what they do. And the honor and privilege of leading them and handing them off to my deputy to watch him mold and mentor those mid-level leaders is the greatest honor of my life. Martin?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, I truly am fortunate to have a great boss. That journey that he talked about on strategic planning, probably one of the most painful experiences that I ever had. All right? 4 hours, no cell phone. Sir, do you realize we're trying to run LAX and you got the whole leadership team in here and none of us can communicate? And I remember going to his office one day and I said, just tell me what you want in this damn document and I will put it in there and you'll have your pretty document and you can put it on your desk. And he said, you'll get it eventually, just have some patience. And I went to this training class, and during this training class, it was actually put on by 2 jazz musicians down at FEI. And it was called How to Be a Great Number 2. And the point of this performance that they were doing is you had a guy who's in the background and he's playing the harmonica, he's playing the saxophone, and you got this soloist or this singer out front, and they're good. But you notice throughout the day, the music just don't sound the same without a good background person. And I had to learn how to be a good background person. And I came back and I said, look, I'm on fire. Whatever you need, I got your back. What do you need? He said, it sure would be nice if you gave strategic planning some attention and some real support. And it was literally that moment where I kind of had to self-reflect and ask, what am I not doing? Because I'm smiling. I mean, I'm sitting in the meetings, I'm participating, I act like I'm into it. right? We've all done that, undoubtedly. But it was literally at that moment, we were having a conversation, and he said, Martin, if you were going somewhere, wouldn't you want to know where you were going? Yeah. Wouldn't you want to know how you're going to get there? Yeah. So why wouldn't you want to have a strategic plan that has a few simple goals, where we're going, and some objectives and initiatives along the way that'll tell us how we're going to get there? And literally, that's all the conversation it took, but I had to have a mind that was open enough to receive it, because for so long, it just sounded like work. It sounded like work. So I want to say thank you to my boss for helping me to gain an appreciation for truly having a plan. Because as I talk about sort of this DHS leadership survey and the results and our FEV scores and some of these positive things that we've had to experience, a lot of it is driven from that plan. We decided we were going to stop punting the ball when it came to survey results. Year after year, we have the privilege of hearing from our workforce. And for a long time, they've been telling us, the collective DHS, that we suck. And for a long time, we keep telling everybody who will listen, it's somebody else's fault. Headquarters needs to fix that. The department needs to fix this. It was always somebody other than us. And finally, I said, no more. Folks, we're going to sit in a room, we're going to digest this thing, and we're going to take it seriously. We put together some work groups, and we listened to them, and we heard from them. Folks, we all like to think it's a money thing. Oh, everybody just wants to be paid more. That's nonsense. We all would like to be paid more, but pay is not what keeps us employed as public servants. We all know what the pay is when we sign up for the job. Every one of my entry-level officers know that they're going to make $17, $18 an hour when they apply for the job, and they were happy to. There were 2,000 other applicants that applied with them, and they were the fortunate one that got selected. It's not about the money. It truly is about the leadership. It's how we treat people. I will tell you, if we can do it successfully with 3,600 folks across 5 airports and get consistent results, I'm telling you it works. It truly is how you treat them. Being responsive. Every single new hire on day one, I give them my cell phone number. If you are ever in a situation where you have a leader that's not leading you, that's not responding to your needs, if you got a payroll problem and you're missing 2 hours of overtime, you go to your supervisor and your supervisor says, call payroll, call me. I promise you I'll fix your problem and you can help me fix my problem, which is a leader that's not leading. My phone very seldom rings, but when it does, I answer. And I'm not going to go whack that supervisor or that manager or that assistant director over the head. That's not what it's for. That person just might need some coaching. They might need a little bit of assistance. They might need to understand that the priority is always our people. We can't have good security if we don't have good people that are focused on that good security. We don't need them distracted. When I listened to the employee feedback that we got from that DHS leadership survey, I couldn't be more proud. It's interesting because I tell my folks all the time in staff meetings and the like, we spend almost all of our time talking about people. It's not that the metrics aren't important. It's not that wait times aren't important or throughput rates or even security effectiveness for that matter. We don't spend the majority of our time talking about those things. We talk about people. As a result of the people focus, we have some of the best covert testing results in the country. We have the lowest call-off rate in the country. We have some of the highest and most pleased morale and a workforce that comes to work every day. We have the lowest unscheduled absence rate. We have a low injury rate. Our people know we care about them. They truly know we care about them. And that truly is the essence of leadership. So people have said, what's the secret sauce? What's the magic pixie dust? There isn't any. We are, I believe, a great 1-2 punch because he has a very strategic and operational mind, and I have a very people-focused, and when you put those two things together, it's amazing what you can accomplish. I truly am blessed and fortunate to work with a great team of leaders in Los Angeles, but I think what I'm most happy and what I'm most proud of is the environment that we've created for our people where they know that they can come in and do great work and they're going to be recognized for it. on a regular, routine, daily basis. They're going to be thanked by their leaders. They're going to have information. They're going to be encouraged to promote and apply for jobs. And they believe that we care. So that's my piece. This was supposed to be an interactive session, although I don't see a place for anybody to ask a question at a mic. So I would ask, please help us have a good time today. We should have a little fun while we're up here. You have mics? So does anybody have a question about something that we've talked about, or I'd be happy to go into more detail about
We thought about that creativity with the bubbles and the iPhone, but yeah, we weren't ready for that. Did come across pretty neat. Nothing?
There's mics back here in the middle and over here and on this side as well. Well, and I'll talk a little bit about the DHS Leadership Survey. So Emily Gooder with TSA, she works in the Workforce Assessment Branch. She partnered with the department. We've got a couple folks here from the department that were the sponsors. And Emily reached out and said, hey, we'd like LA, hub and spoke airports to participate in this pilot. And I fully embraced it. What do we have to lose, right? When we got the survey itself, and those of you who are with CIS or with the Federal Air Marshal Service, you also received it as well, so you know what I'm talking about. Hands down, the best survey that I've ever seen in terms of getting good feedback and results on leadership. Not the stuff, if you will, that's related to managing, right? Sometimes we can get overly focused on managing things. We manage resources, we manage numbers, metrics, but those leadership values that people have, are they responsive? Are they treating people with dignity and respect? Are they promoting and encouraging growth and development? You know, are they truly caring for their people? This survey allows every employee to rate their first line supervisor, their second line supervisor, and their third line. And it's real feedback. It's honest feedback. And it provided a great opportunity for us to find out where our strengths were, as well as where our weaknesses, and how we marry those folks up. You know, we talk about the discovery that some of those folks we thought were rock stars, who could, just ran the operation better than anybody could. People hated working for them. Just jerks, some of them, when you look at some of the feedback. But they got the results. And then we had those folks who you would think couldn't lead at all, but they had great feedback from the people that they were leading. They just weren't very operationally strong. Great opportunity to marry these two people up, make them partners, let them learn and grow from each other, because they're both strengths. They're truly both strengths. This survey is a game changer, I assure you, and I was just talking to the folks asking, how do we get this through to the rest of the country? How do we get this to the rest of the component agencies so they can truly start to identify where their strengths and their weaknesses are, so we can all become better leaders and have better organizations? She mentioned there's a lack of funding. I don't mean to get ahead of you, but I do wonder, for some of you executives out there, I'm going to challenge you. If there's an opportunity for you, if you have some money, maybe this is something you might want to invest in. And I don't know if the application can be parsed out or individually used, but it's certainly a question that will be worth asking. The value that we received from it by being a pilot site, I can't exaggerate how meaningful it was to us, and it continues to be meaningful for us today, even a year later. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for what you do. Yes, sir. Yeah, so one, I will tell you that we get asked that question a lot. Like, how do you handle that? You know, you got this low call out rate, the leave, how do you handle that? We figure out a way to get to yes. Why not? It's a big operation. They need to get off for the kids' kindergarten graduation, say yes. We'll plug a hole some other way. If you really care about them, we just say yes. So I hope that is the question that you're asking. We just say yes we just never say no. And then after that, believe it or not, they put pressure on themselves. That's the interesting thing. They're like, holy smokes, we can get leave anytime we want. And then everybody else magically, mystically shows up for work. It's not a whole lot of, I don't know.
Yeah. Folks, I remember sitting with my management team when we had this conversation. And we were listening to some feedback from some employees, and they were saying, look, our biggest heartburn, and they weren't saying it in this way, but it manifests in various different ways. But what it really comes down to is people want to take leave. All right, everybody in this room, literally every one of you, if you need tomorrow off, I don't care what the reason is, you know all you got to do is send an email to your boss, say, I'm going to take off tomorrow. I'll be available by email if you need anything, right? And 100% of the time, we're going to be told yes. A frontline employee should have that same luxury, and they don't. We need to be better than that. People need to know that if their daughter's got a recital on Friday that they didn't know about 8 months ago when we had the annual vacation bid, that they can get the day off. So I have my folks, and I sat with my management team, I said, you will answer 2 questions every time somebody asks for a leave request. A, do you believe them? Grandma can only die twice. Maybe 3 times if it's like a step-grandma, okay? So do you believe them? Question B, is it something you would ask for? So if you believe them and it's something you would ask for, your answer is yes. We will find a way to cover the absence. Interestingly enough, our annual leave usage rate, percentage of leave, has not increased. Our unscheduled absences have been cut in half. We have thousands of employees that are scheduled every day. We have a bad day if we take 30 call-offs, folks, unscheduled absences. During the shutdown, our worst day was 4%. There's places that 4% will be their best day all year, okay? But it's because our people know if you have a need to take leave, go talk to your manager, and they will work with you. All we ask is give us a few days so we have time to plan and adjust for your absence. Just that one thing alone has made a huge, huge difference for us. And the results that we've seen from it, game-changing. Treat them like adults, they act like adults.
Did you get support from your leadership to really find the truth in terms of what the workforce is talking about? And then could you also just, how do you know that they're really responding with a sort of a response rate that you feel like they're really telling you everything that's going on?
Yeah, so for the DHS leadership survey, the last part first, yeah, they nailed it. You know, matter of fact, some of them were saying, I wish the FSD had stopped telling us how important it is to know the mission, vision, and core values. So I'd say, yeah, that was pretty true. That's all I would run around and talk about. Support from leadership, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I am leadership, so that was where it stopped and started. So it gets
I
my
think
support.
with respect to support from our mid-level leadership staff, you know, our GS-15s, 14s, 13s, K-bands, et cetera, at first, no. At first, when we, especially on this leave thing and some of the survey stuff, they had been so accustomed to punting the ball and blaming headquarters for all of the perceived problems that the agency has that they didn't embrace the ownership piece. So we kind of got a lesson in ownership, all right? So Mr. Jeffries purchased a book for us all as a Christmas gift called Extreme Ownership. If you've not read it, read it. Exceptional book. In that book, they talk about various different elements of leadership, but what it really comes down to is there are no bad teams, there's only bad leaders. We have to own it. We have to stop blaming other people and stop deflecting responsibility. If we want good results, we got to own the results. If we want to be a great team, we got to believe we're a great team. And we can't believe it if we all sit in a room and give ourselves excuses for failure. You know, when we had a problem failing tests, we'd say, oh, the x-ray equipment sucks, everybody knows it. Well, if you give your folks a reason to fail, they're probably not going to improve. So we decided to just change the narrative, shape it differently. Let's talk about being successful and what success looks like. In terms of how do we know we're getting the results, on the leadership survey, we had almost 80% of the workforce respond voluntarily. We had over 50 employees get a perfect score from every one of their folks that were rating them. We're talking anywhere from 10 to 20 people rating them. We only had 8 supervisory or management officials receive an average rating below 3. So we know that this leadership culture that we're trying to develop is working and it's starting to permeate itself. Last year, our FEVS results were very good in comparison to other locations, but not nearly where we wanted them to be. And we challenged the team one more time. We're going to get better. This year, we had, again, almost 80% of our employees in Los Angeles responded to the FEV survey. We were head and shoulders above every single airport in the country on our employee engagement index scores, which all of you undoubtedly receive for your respective agencies and offices. So those are indicators that it's working when you get those types of positive results. But then you also look at the indicators in the day-to-day work environment. Our call-off rates are low, our injury rates are low. So there's just a number of indicators that we can look at to say, hey, is it working or is it not working? And is it time to go back to the workforce and listen to them again and continue to make these adjustments that are necessary to be successful?
And I think for any survey, whether it's FAVS or the DHS survey, it's feedback. Feedback's a gift. What you do with that gift is up to you. Whether it's positive or negative really doesn't matter. What are you doing about it? That's really the hard question that we all have to ask at all levels. Everybody gets it. Thanks for what you do every day, folks. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you.